Welcome to Ask the Experts. Happy to have you here today. We're going to go ahead and get started. I do have this session recording, so we can come back to it and listen to it at another time, or if you have some colleagues who'd like to go ahead and listen who couldn't join today, we will provide the recording to you via the marketing email that comes out to you about our Ask the Expert session. Now today we're going to be talking about the 5 steps to better franchisee hub adoption. I want to go ahead and let you know up front that the suggestions that we're making here today on the call to improve franchisee adoption have been validated by one of our largest brands who does consulting for different franchise organizations. So while they're best practices as suggested by FranConnect, they're also validated by an industry leader. So with that said, for today's discussion, your expert team is me, Liz Colon. I'm a senior education consultant here. Many of you know me and have heard my voice and have been on calls with me. So happy to have you here again. As we go forward in other sessions, we will include other resources as necessary. So for those of you who may be joining us on a mobile phone, you'll notice along the right-hand side, the ways that you can ask questions are by raising your hand and or sending me a question in the chat box. Because these calls tend to have a large number of viewers or participants, we restrict the audio to raising your hand for me to open up the line for you to ask verbally, or for you to chat those to me. And here are the methods by which you can raise your hand. And then again, you can input any questions into your chat box. So first we're going to cover, as with all Ask the Expert sessions, we're going to cover the topic of the week. Again, 5 steps to better franchisee hub adoption. Then we're going to open the floor for questions. Questions can be about any topic, about any module. We will try to group them by topic. I will say that I'm your expert here today, but there are frequently questions that you ask me here on the line that require some follow-up. Sometimes you all do a really good job on asking questions, so we follow up with those either by answering them on next week's call or by emailing you with the answers to your questions. As always, if you have any questions during the week in between sessions, you can email us at training@franconnect.com. And then here are the sessions that are coming up here for discussion in the following weeks. Next week is preparing for FranConnect users to use SMS messaging. Then the following week, we'll take a look at the Insights module. February 10th, we'll look at pro tips for opener checklists, and so on down the list. And so feel free to join any of these as you wish in terms of what you're trying to achieve within your organization. Again, any week you can come on the call and ask questions related to anything outside of the topic of discussion, so feel free to join us. Okay, so let's go ahead and hop into the FranConnect system. So this is about the 5 steps to better franchisee hub adoption as validated by one of our largest brands. So the first thing in our lesson today, and I'm just going to kind of sit here on the hub page, so my screen will not be moving while I talk to you. The first thing that I want to tell you is that you do not have to roll all of the elements of the hub at once. Depending on the size of your organization, it may not make sense for you to do that. If you're an emerging brand and you have few franchisees, then rolling the hub as it sits to your franchise organization will have minimal impact because you likely don't have a lot of processes in place. For those of you who have a larger brand, implementing all of these things on day one may be difficult. And the reason why I say that is specifically for something like messages. If you currently have an email process in place and it has worked for you for the last 10 years, then you're not going to find a lot of your franchisees complying from day one because they already have a process that works. If they can email you from their Gmail account, then they're not really incentivized to come in here in the system. So the place where I recommend, and again, validated by one of our largest franchise brands, the place that I recommend in terms of you implementing the system first is in the library. So the first step is to roll out the hub in-section. And that's number one coming out of this lesson today. Roll it out in sections if you're an experienced or existing brand. If you're an emerging brand, you're okay to roll it out as it is because, again, minimal impact. So number one is roll out the hub in sections. Number two is to start with the library. And I had a great discussion with a couple of my franchisors yesterday that further validated this lesson. You're going to start with the library for a couple of reasons. The library is going to be where your franchisees are going to find all of the documents they need to operate their location. You want to make sure that you're consistent, that the documents are updated here regularly, that you're using this regularly, and that it can be a reliable source of information for your franchisee. Now, here's the deal. Our whole goal in using the library is to build franchisee independence. Today, if you're an existing brand, you're probably getting multiple requests a week for documentation from your many different franchisees. That's very time-consuming. And one of the ladies I was speaking to yesterday they have a whole department who's responsible for responding to franchisee requests for documents. Here's the deal. We shouldn't have a whole department because we're trying to drive independence. And here's how we drive independence in implementing the library. We say, okay, franchisees, this is where you locate information going forward. When the franchisee emails you and says, hey, John, I really need X document that you sent me last year, you're going to say, thanks for asking, John. You can find the document in the hub in the library under the accounting folder. And I know this seems simple. But as mentioned, I was on a call yesterday with someone who has a department who's just sending off the doc and sending off the doc and sending off the doc, right? And we don't need to be doing that. We're going to give them the pass. Okay, thanks so much, John. You're going to go ahead and find that document now in the hub, the library, and the accounting folder. Inevitably, and I'm sure you're all thinking, you're going to have a couple of people who come back to you and say, I can't find it. And you're like, well, did you even look? Because it's right in front of your face, right? We all know that we have those people. And so we're not going to give them the answer the second time. We're going to say it's in the hub, in the library, in the accounting folder. Here, I've gone ahead and provided you with a link to the folder. Okay, and this is second contact. So first contact is it's in the hub, in the library, in the accounting folder. Second contact is it's in the hub, it's in the library, in the accounting folder. Here's a link to that folder. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to drive them and drive them and drive them. I remember when I worked for a large company, I was in a management role at the time, and I would go into my boss and say, hey, I need whatever HR doc. And she would say, well, did you check in the HR folder on the intranet? And I'd be like, and it only took a couple times of her doing that I became embarrassed, and I would look in the HR folder before I would ask her a question about the document I was looking for. And so I suspect the same will be true for you for probably 90% of your franchisees. After you direct their path a couple of times and don't give them the answer, they're going to go ahead and use this resource themselves. Okay, because it's going to be quicker and easier than emailing you and having you tell them the path and them having to find it anyway. So they might as well just come here themselves. One thing that I want to point out is that we also have an option under the document itself to copy the URL. And I want you to know that you do not want to use this because this is giving them the answer. So we're giving them the path. At most, we're giving them the URL to the folder, but we are never giving them the URL to the doc, because this simply attaches the doc to the email, okay, which completely eliminates the whole purpose of making them self-sufficient, okay? So step 1 is rolling out the hub in sections. Step 2, in terms of our 5 steps to better franchisee adoption, we're beginning with the library. Start with the library. Build independence with the library. You all know what happens when a franchisee starts using a resource and they're using the resource well. As human beings, we become naturally curious. So then I start to say, oh, well, I'm using the library, but there are a lot of other things here. I wonder what they're for. And of course, you're going to teach them, right? You may initially say, hey, the hub has all of these, multiple different resources. We're going to start by using the library. These other resources are here for you. But we're going to start by really implementing this library. Your tech-savvy people are going to come in and maybe use other elements of this right away. But in general, we want to start with the library, and we really want to push this baby home with the library. And then again, they'll naturally explore. The third step in our 5 steps to better franchisee hub adoption is be reliable on FranBuzz. Be reliable on FranBuzz. So one of the tips that I got from the group I was speaking to yesterday was that they have a designated person responsible for posting something in FranBuzz once a week. So John in accounting posts on Mondays, Susie in the back office posts on Tuesdays. Each person has a day at corporate that they're responsible for posting. And sometimes it's fun in nature, sometimes it's a reminder about, something that's going on or a marketing event, but somebody is responsible for posting every day. And that keeps this from getting stagnant. The second thing that I'm going to suggest here in being reliable on FranBuzz is if we've got a marketing team, then of course that marketing team is working with franchisees to improve the franchise business, of course, to increase revenue, which helps everybody. And so I don't know if any of you on the line know this, but every Wednesday at 2 p.m. you can hop on Twitter and you can become part of a franchising discussion or a global franchising discussion using the hashtag franchising. Do the same thing in FranBuzz for your franchisees. Be reliable. Every Tuesday at 2 or every Wednesday at 2 p.m., marketing is going to come onto FranBuzz and they're going to introduce a topic. Maybe it's marketing to local businesses. Maybe it's selling to local businesses who are skeptics. Maybe it's selling to local businesses who haven't had a good rate of return the last time they used your business. Have them pick a topic and let's get on here and let's start a discussion where franchisees can come and make comments and potentially voice concerns that you can then overcome in a public way here on the hub and in FranBuzz. And so step 3 is to be reliable on FranBuzz. Set a time, set an appointment, and be here and be available to your franchisees. Step 4 in our 5 steps is to set up your what's new email. So under the admin section, under the hub, there's an opportunity to configure what's new email. We'll need to go ahead and enable this, give it a title relevant to your organization, and choose when you want this email to go out. Every day, every 7 days, and every 15 days. One of the organizations I spoke with yesterday sends it every 7 days. They felt like every day was too much and every 15 days was too few, but 7 days worked just right for them. I've spoken with another very large franchise brand with hundreds of locations, and they send it every day. So you have to find the balance that's right for your organization. But what this is an email that goes out to your franchisees that lets them know what's new in the hub. Now, I don't know about you, but this is a really great reminder that they need to get in the system, right? So if the What's New email says, hey, these documents were uploaded and they're relevant to something that's going on or a promotion that you're running, then, hey, that reminds them these documents are available for them to view. They'll come back into the system to view those documents. We have FranBuzz updates turned on, so if you have a really, really great FranBuzz discussion on Wednesday at 2 p.m., on Thursday or potentially the following week, they get an update which shows that that discussion took place, and then they can go ahead and see that, wow, that conversation that happened on Wednesday was really valuable. I need to be on the next one. And so this What's New email allows them to kind of see a snapshot of what's happened, which drives them and will drive them back into the system. And then step 5, last but not least, is Hub Mobile and push notifications. So one of the greatest elements of our most recent release of Orion is the fact that we have a mobile app. And I can't demo this for you because, of course, I don't have a mobile phone here right on my screen. But the mobile app will allow your franchisees to receive push notifications. And some of those notifications are the same ones that are available here in notifications inside of options. So your franchisee can receive push notifications to their phone, letting them know what's new in FranBuzz, letting them know that a new library document was posted or that someone commented on a FranBuzz post. So here's the deal. With a mobile app, and I talked to my audience about this yesterday too, with a mobile app, we now have the opportunity for the franchisee to not be on their desktop looking at the system, but still be able to be engaged, right? Because with push notifications, just like we receive a push notification from Facebook letting us know that a friend commented on our post or that a friend posted something, if you have them set where you get a notification for everything, then at least our franchisees, while they're up away from their desks, interacting with sales, doing what we want them to do to generate revenue, they have this push notification on their phone. So as soon as they can get to it, they can click on the notification on their phone, see what's happened, and see potentially that in FranBuzz, we've got a really awesome marketing chat going right now. They can see a new library document's been uploaded. Oh, and you know what? That's that pumpkin recipe I need to go ahead and start using. So there's a question on the line, which is appropriate because I went through the 5 things, and I'm going to repeat them really quickly. So the first step is to roll out the hub inspection. And this is more relevant for existing brands than emerging brands. Emerging brands, you can go live because you probably don't have any processes in place, that you're going to have to overcome some hurdles and people using the old process. Step 2 is start with the library. Step 3 is be reliable on FranBuzz. Step 4 is set up your What's New email. And step 5 is take advantage of Hub Mobile and push notifications, or the mobile app and push notifications. Now, we'll open for questions. I already have one here on the line. Melissa, I see your question. There's a question about in FranBuzz if you can schedule posts like you can in Facebook. And the answer is not at this time. I think that's a really good question. We don't have the opportunity to pre-schedule posts, but I will add it to my system enhancement list. I've got quite a few that I need to go ahead and add. All right. What other questions do you all have for me? I've got a hand. Let me see whose hand I've got. Oh, hand must have come down. All right, Kelly, let me unmute you because I don't, what you're saying is not coming to mind to me right this moment. Go ahead, Kelly.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yesterday you had mentioned also putting keywords in your posts to facilitate searching, and I found that one really useful as well.
Sure. So in both the library and in Framebuzz, so here's the thing, when we put a discussion up here in Framebuzz, we have the opportunity to come back to it later in search. And so if we're talking about, 5 steps to better franchisee hub adoption, and that's the topic that our marketing team puts in here, then our franchisee can come in at any time and search for that and come back. I think, Kelly, what you're specifically talking about is keywords in the library. So if you're using a library or when you're using the library, it's a best practice when you're adding a document to include keywords. The way that the system searches now allows for your franchisees to find documents by keywords, not just by matching the document name with what they're searching. And so what that means is when we add a document in here, we have the opportunity to create a summary. So we'll put in a summary of the document, but we'll also add keywords. So if a franchise, we might add this document as a blank franchise agreement, but a franchisee may search for FA, they might have searched for agreement, they might search for franchising agreement, they may search for contract. All of these things are possibilities and then being able to find what they're looking for. So while the system will allow you, Erin, that's exactly what I'm getting to. While the system will allow you to search for keywords, you simply need to add them into the summary. And so the question that just came on the line was, do I actually need to call them keywords for the system to recognize them as that? No. I, Liz Colon, am just slightly anal retentive. Instead of just placing these into the body and not knowing exactly what they're for, I personally add the word keywords so that if somebody's searching or looking at this document, they can differentiate the description from the additional words that are relevant to this document. So that's me. You don't have to do that. You also don't have to include commas in between your keywords, colons, semicolons, anything like that. A space is sufficient. This is just Liz Colon OCD, okay? But anyway, your whole purpose here is including these keywords for search purposes. So at the top of my page, if right now I come and I do FA, because inevitably somebody will search for that, right? If I click FA, it'll bring up my blank franchise agreement. The system's going to read these keywords. Now I have this great boss here at FranConnect who's been in training for quite some time, and she has shared that a best practice is if you have a department that's coming to you and saying, hey Liz, I need you to upload this document. The best practice would be that when they provide you with that document, they also provide you with the keywords that go with that document. Now, we're not going to be perfect every time, right? So inevitably, we're going to add a document and people are going to search for it in a way that we didn't even think that they would search for it, because that's just life and people. But here's the cool thing. Under admin, under hub, you have search logs. And you can click on this and you can actually see what people are searching for. So if you happen to have uploaded a pumpkin recipe recently, you can see that people are searching for the pumpkin recipe. You can also see the potential for people to be looking for a document that you may not have thought that they would search by that name. So, and so I'm sorry, I'm mildly distracted by some chats that are coming in on my line. So good questions. So in any event, you have the ability here to use search logs to be able to identify maybe some additional keywords that you want to include in a library doc. Okay, so thanks, Kelly, for that. Now there are a couple of chats that are coming in, so let me go ahead and answer those. So Carlos, to answer your question, I will follow up and send your request to one of the members of our sales team who can provide you with a sales demo of the hub. And then, you can take that to, if you're the decision maker or if there's other decision makers, we can make sure that we get you in touch with the right people. So I'll take that offline with you to make sure you get what you need. Okay. Sean, question on a different topic. Lead assignment for web forms. If I create a web form, can I have the lead auto-assigned to a franchisee based on a drop-down question that the customer chooses from? For example, we have location 1, 2, 3, and 4. Customer chooses location 2. Permission is auto-assigned to the owner of location 2. Okay, not getting it via your description. So let me go ahead and unmute you, Sean. Just give me a second. Okay, Sean, you're unmuted if you want to unmute yourself. Good deal.
Yes. Hello. So hi. So basically, with a web form, so I believe that it can be programmed so if it'll do a zip code lookup and then assign to a particular franchisee based on that zip code. But let's say they're looking at a different location other than what their zip code is. We want to see if there's a way that they can choose from a list of all of our locations, and then that lead will automatically be assigned as a new lead in the system to the owner of that location.
I have to look into that for you.
Okay.
It's very specific, so rather than trying to figure it out on the line here, let's go ahead and I'll follow up with you on that one, okay?
Yeah, that'll be great.
Off the top of my head, it's like I'm not thinking of a easy solution, so I just need to do some research for you, okay?
Yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Good question. Thank you, though. What other questions do we have on the line here? Give you guys a few minutes. I know sometimes you're thinking of them as we go here. So feel free to raise your hand or place your question into the chat box. Happy to answer anything about the hub or any of the other modules that we have. One of the other things that we, unrelated to the 5 steps of our franchisee hub adoptions, but that came up in a really great call yesterday was these e-polls and your ability to use them to just get a snapshot of what your franchisees think. And so an example that we had in a hub training yesterday was that a franchisor is using this to kind of get a pulse check on perhaps where franchisees may want to go for their franchising convention or so, you can create a quick e-poll that says, hey, would you rather stay domestically or internationally for, our franchisee convention? And then they can give you like a quick answer in response to that, and then you can make some decisions that are related to your franchisees or that your franchisees desire to see as a quick result. Now, one of the things about e-polls is that they're not going to replace like a Survey Monkey or a big survey that you do to get a better understanding about how your franchise feel about the organization. What they will do is give you a quick look at a question that you may have and want to get a good answer on. So once we answer the question domestic or international, our audience chooses domestic, and so then we might say, okay, so where do you want to go? We have 3 convention spots, Texas, Florida, or California. And then we kind of like just get a pulse check and we respond, and it allows us to give or allows our franchisees to be heard in a small way and feel valued. So e-polls are another good tool. I have a hand raised, so let me go ahead and unmute you. Go ahead, Kelly.
Hi, my question is actually related to the sales module and groups that's been updated. Can you explain the difference between, or the difference between a regular group and a smart group. And it's just a little different than it was, I think, in the last release. And I was
sure.
wanting some more information.
Sure. So I'm not sure how it looked in the last release for you, Kelly, but as far as I know in Orion, while it looks different in terms of UI, it works the same, which is that a regular group is going to pull in those leads who already exist today. So it's going to say, we say we want to create a group of Virginia leads, and that group that we create is going to pull all historic leads up until today into a regular group. A smart group, on the other hand, is going to say, oh, you want Virginia leads? I'm going to go ahead and pull all of the historical leads, and then I'm also going to add leads into this group when they come in from Virginia. So a regular group includes historical data. A smart group includes historical data and future data.
Okay, yeah, where it's different from how I'm used to using it is a regular group. You would create the group, and then you would find your leads or contacts, and then add them to the group. And
right.
when I was trying to create a regular group, it was it had the filtering, which was
right.
required, and I wasn't sure how to get past that. If I just wanted to create a group without actually adding existing leads, if I want to pick and choose the leads. How can I
so like
just create
counties? So sure. So like this is a so if we create a regular group, we can create the group without selecting the Smart button. And then here, leads in Virginia, we can come and associate with leads. And then we get our search form.
I misspoke earlier. I was looking at the CRM, where it's that's where it's different than in sales, and that's where I couldn't get past the filter. So it's just slightly different.
Let me follow up with you on that one.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, good. Thanks, Kelly. What other questions do you have here? I'll give it another minute. Okay, so there's a question on the line about SMS. So Carlos, SMS is new to the Orion release. It's fairly new to myself as well. You do need to have a Twilio account in order to enable it. Our topic next week is on SMS, I believe, where we'll be able to give you a little bit more details on initiating that in your organization. If that's too late for you, Carlos, to get that answer, then we can certainly follow up with you earlier next week to get you more details. But outside of the release notes, I can't really provide you anything, and the training system here isn't set up for SMS just yet. So I can answer that for you a little bit better next week. Thanks, Carlos. Sorry about that. Carlos, I'm like batting 0 for 2 here on the line with you today, so I'll make sure I grab you. Any other questions for anybody on the line? All right, well, if there are no further questions, I appreciate your participation today. As always, if you have any questions between now and next week's session, you can email us at training@frankconnect.com. We'll be happy to answer those in the interim and present them in next week's lesson. Everyone have a great day and a great weekend.